A product lifecycle analysis is often used to assess environmental sustainability, but when comparing two materials, these often don't tell the full story. I'm Patrick Krieger with the Plastics Industry Association. Throughout Bioplastics Week 2021, we're talking with experts to help us learn a little bit more about what can sometimes be complicated subjects. I'm here today with Constance Isbrucha, Head of Environmental Affairs for European Bioplastics. Hi, Constance. Thanks for being here.
Yes, many thanks for inviting me.
Companies and policymakers often use life cycle analyses, or LCAs, to understand the environmental impacts of a material or compare to. But is it even possible to use these to compare to materials?
Yeah, LCA, of course, is a fancy and an easy tool which seems to be more or less tailor-made also to make comparisons between fossil and bio-based materials and plastics. But indeed, you need to be quite careful in what exactly is compared and how the results are interpreted. There are actually big differences between fossil and bio-based industry when it comes to the majority of technologies, for example. And also the existing inventory data is not necessarily at the same level for a number of materials. The consideration of indirect effects, like for example, ILUC, is also increasing, and it makes totally sense to do this. But if this is only assessed for bio-based and not for fossil-based, then something is not really going right. And also you have to look at indirect positive effects and negative effects. And this is currently not really done. And another important, if not the important point, is of course the calculation of sequestered biogenic carbon. It's one of the inherent advantages of bio-based plastics that they take up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and lock it up until the end of life. But unfortunately, there are still discussions around the necessity to include this in comparative LCAs. And this is actually quite unlucky, especially when you look at the fight against climate change, where this can play a really remarkable role.
So when evaluating innovative technologies, what does European Bioplastics recommend?
The LCA ISO standard requires a stakeholder review, which is definitely essential for a decent outcome of an LCA. And the final interpretation of the results needs to be done very carefully and should consider the issues that I just mentioned before. And it should consider that not everyone reading the executive summary is an expert in the field of LCA or bio-based plastics. And especially in a policy context, the communication around the results should show a certain sensitivity, as the consequences can of course be relevant for a whole sector. And European Bioplastics has published a comprehensive position paper on LCA as a tool to compare fossil and bio-based plastics and the possible impacts. And at our UBP conference this year, we will also have a session on sustainability and LCA, which might be worth a visit, of course, for everybody interested.
Thanks, Constance. It's a good reminder that when working with new and innovative technologies, that often you have to adjust your perspective. And if you would like to learn more about this and other bioplastics topics, follow #BioplasticsWeek.